Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. This is your latest Manchester United news as the media and fans turn on Ten Hag. Some ridiculous comments coming out today from what I would describe as sensationalist idiots, and we'll get into those. I just despair. As somebody who is fortunate enough to have a community that we've built over 10 years, I never take it for granted. I may say stupid things, but I don't take it for granted, and I don't just use it as a notice board to spout shit without thinking it through. And I think that's what we're seeing today. A collection of know-it-alls pinning it on the manager again. They did it with Solskjaer, they did it with Mourinho, they did it with Van Gaal, they're doing it again. The definition of an insanity is to do the thing over and over again, and it's incredible some of the stuff that's coming out. But look, one man's stupid opinion is another man's genius and woman's, so we'll get into that. Also some big updates coming out from the club. Ten Hag is lost, the players are lost, the club is lost, it is on its arse. We've got some insider information coming in from there. Also, Sir Jim Ratcliffe would look to keep Erik Ten Hag, but would also look to reduce his responsibilities. What does that mean? We've got an update on Mason Mount. We've got leaks coming from the dressing room that the training's too hard. It's too hard. It's getting dark at night. We want to go home early. All sorts to get into on the show today. I've been looking forward to it all day, to be back live with you great people, and I want to get your input as usual. Look at our back four. How can it be a surprise that City won, says Carlos? Well, look, there's a collection of, you know, I do the podcast. It's out tomorrow. We do Pratt Pundit of the Week. I mean, it's an absolute fest of Pratt pundits today. They're all coming out with shit, and I want to go through it all because, look, where we are at the moment is not acceptable. Some of the things Ten Hag did yesterday is not acceptable. But my stance, and I don't care if someone has a different opinion because that's what it's all about and you can get your opinion in. My stance is that in the summer, the main collection of us said we can't force another manager out. We can't force another manager out. And yet here we are with other people, some of you, wanting the manager to go. And I'm yet... By the way, can I just repeat what I said yesterday? Because I was very clear after the game yesterday. People are looking for a magic, you know, some magic beans to grow a beanstalk. I know what we are, and I know where we are. We're a mid-table club because that's what the Glazers have created. With years and years of incompetence, they've actually created a very consistent football club. We're shit. And it's been created by the Glazers. But some people still think that if you bring a certain manager in, everything's going to be all right. Get the Bob Marley on. Everything is going to be all right. It's not. I've got the green on because I never get to use it, and it's Halloween. So I've gone for a bit of a, you know, spooky feel. But Manchester United are a broken football club, and I still think some people think there's a quick fix. And I'm going to tell you why there isn't a quick fix. But all I've heard from the media today, I've been driving around a lot, listening to a lot of stuff, and it's this quick fix bollocks that I've heard in the days of Van Gaal. I heard it in the days of Mourinho, and I heard it in the days of Ollie. They sack the manager, there's a quick fix. You know, when Ollie was in charge, people were saying, let's get rid of Ollie, get a manager like Ten Hag in, and it'll be all right. And now they're going, oh, get rid of Ten Hag, get someone like Emery or De Zerbi in, and everything will be all right. It's like a broken record, and I'm all for different opinions, but I think we've made so many mistakes over the last 10 years. If I was Sir Jim Ratcliffe or anybody that's going to get involved with Manchester United, I'd be aware of false prophets. I'd be very aware of anything the media say or anything an ex-player's got to say. Because let's not forget, Ralph Rangnick, I liked Ralph Rangnick, some of you did, the media didn't. They ridiculed him, they basically made him out to be a clown, and he's the most clarity we've had in the last 10 years. He's never played for Man United, he's never been at Man United, and he spoke the most sense, but he got ridiculed. So I've got no interest in what the ex-players or the media community have got to say, because they talk out their arse. They don't analyse the real situation. Look at our back. We've done that one from Carlos. And driving in the dark FC and taking a break, having a Kit Kat FC from the Ollie's last days back again. What are these leaks, says Mohammed. Well, look, I think that when I look at where we are at the moment, the big things that I've heard today, and look, there's a few things I want to get to, but I was listening to Talk Sport. Well, I wasn't. I saw a clip from Talk Sport today from, I think it was Goldstein, who... I've got a lot of things to say about that guy, but realistically, let's keep it on football. He basically said that, you know, what Gary Neville was saying yesterday about the Glazers is fine and well, but the you know, if Man United had Emery, they'd be in a better position. And I'm like, this is meant to be coming from a Man United fan. Like, we've been here. When we had Van Gaal, if we get Mourinho, we'll be a lot better. When we had Mourinho, we need to get rid of Mourinho and we need to get another manager. Then we were singing Ollie's at the wheel and this is the way to go. And then Ollie was crap and now we need another manager. Oh, we got Ten Hag. Oh, now we need another manager. I mean, I almost want to laugh at those people who say change the manager. But what I really want to say is, what's your plan? All I can see is Ten Hag this, Ten Hag that. I agree. We were shit yesterday. Some of his selections weren't very good. We're going to get into the dressing room leaks. We're going to get into this inside information that we got a couple of hours ago that we tweeted about. I agree with those, but pray tell me, and maybe someone wants to do a super chat, or maybe wants to do someone just do a chat and I'll spot it. What are you doing? What are you going to do? Because I sit here pragmatically and calm saying sacking the manager is the worst thing that we can do. And I know why. But what I will also say to you is, you want to sack the manager because you think we can get top four. I know we're not getting top four with Ten Hag or a new manager. So I look at the bigger problem, patience. I don't want to be patient, but this club is broken. We're not getting top four, so don't sack the manager. Complete the journey with Ten Hag because we're not getting top four anyway. Don't waste 30 million sacking Ten Hag and bringing another manager in and then spending, building another team. We're not getting top four with Ten Hag and we're not getting top four without Ten Hag. So stick with what we've got, have a bit of stability and see this plan through. Because the biggest mistake, and I always feel guilty about it, was getting rid of Mourinho. Player power versus the manager, they went with player power. They should have gone with the manager. And where would we be if we'd stuck with Mourinho? Who knows? But we can't do this again. And also, nobody, I tell you, nobody can give me an alternative to Ten Hag that's realistic. I've heard Zidane doesn't want to manage in England. I've heard De Zerbi, forget it, you can't afford it. Emery, forget about it, you can't afford it. So who is the manager that's going to come and take Manchester United? And what decent manager would do it anyway? Like, Ten Hag's reputation in European football manager scene is very good. He's very well respected for what he did at Ajax. What manager's going to think they can rebuild Man United at Manchester United under their current regime? But sack the manager. Get rid of the manager. It's not good enough. The football's not good enough. Mate. And I call you mate because we're a community. I'll tell you why Man United aren't playing very well at the moment. We bought a goalkeeper to pass out the back. We've got no centre-backs that can do it. I watched Man City yesterday. Man City transition from back to front very comfortably. Brighton transition from back to front very comfortably. Villa do it. Liverpool do it. Arsenal do it. Man United can't do it. Possession is what everybody does now. Everybody plays out from the back. I think football will evolve. Everybody plays out from the back. We can't play out from the back. Everybody plays out from the back. You know why they do it? Because you've got a 99% chance of keeping the ball when you play out from the back. Not forever, but that first pass away from your goalkeeper, you've got a 99% chance of keeping possession because they can't come in your box, so your first pass can be a defender, or your fullback might be free. You can build possession, and possession means the opposition haven't got the ball, and you can work your way up the pitch. Man City do it, Brighton do it, everybody does it. Man United can't do it. We can't pass out from the back. So when you play Man City or whether you play Brentford, we can't actually pass out from the back because Martinez is injured, Luke Shaw is injured, and Varane, I don't know what's going on with him. So you've got Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire who do not want the ball. They don't want the ball. They're not mobile enough. They don't turn quick enough. They don't want it. One of the biggest problems we've got at the moment is we can't build possession from the back. And you get all these geniuses saying Man United haven't got a style of play. And I said it a week and a half ago, but I've been looking at it. And instead of just moaning about we haven't got a style of play, I've been looking at it. And the problem we've got is our whole defence has been wiped out. We can't play out from the back. So then we have to play the percentage ball. We have to kick long. And when you kick long, Rashford's shit in the air, Anthony's shit in the air, Bruno's shit in the air. It's one of the reasons I think he picks McTominay. We are playing percentage ball and we're losing the ball. It's as simple as that. So look, I would stick with Ten Hag on the basis of that because I firmly believe he can't play the football he wants. He spent £50 million on a goalkeeper that he can't use properly. He spent £55 million on Mason Mount, which he can't use properly. I genuinely think if Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane and Wan-Bissaka were fit, we would see a different Man United. So I don't want to sack the manager because he hasn't had the opportunity to put his best team out this season. And last season, we finished third and got to 2 cup finals. So I don't think it's worth sacking him anyway for what I've just said there. But also, if somebody said, Mark, I've heard that if we sack Ten Hag, Pep will take the job, I'd probably go, wow, let's look at that. But that's not on the cards. It's Darren Fletcher. It's Darren Fletcher if Ten Hag gets the sack till the end of the season. What's that all about? What's the point? I can't really believe we backed the cycle with Ten Hag. I'm so sad about this, as Ray. Sell everyone, Mark. Keep Hoyland, Lissandro, Shaw, Onana, Garner and Manacha, Ameno and build a new team, says Tony. We've lost trust in Ten Hag. His decisions, team selection and quotes are so out of depth. I'd go for Hansi Flick as an alternative. He's available, says Daniel. So Daniel, who has come out with some decent comments in the past, I remember the name, says we should sack Ten Hag and all his staff, which will cost us about 20 million. Give Hansi Flick the job, which will probably cost us about 10 million, and then he'll want to buy his own players. So Daniel thinks we've got 30 million just to reset. Get real, Daniel. We haven't got the money. So good suggestion. Thank you for giving one. We ain't got the money. Some of these people don't deserve a manager as good as Ten Hag. The grass is not always greener, says James. Look, I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm giving you my passionate opinion. I'm not here to tell you what to do. That is not what I do. I'm telling you why I'm sticking with Ten Hag. One, what's the alternative and how do we afford it? But two, last season we finished third. We got to 2 cup finals and we were making something happen. This season, for whatever reason, he's never got his best team on the pitch. We've never built any momentum. I would give him this season. I would give him this season and assess it in the summer. For 2 reasons. One, I genuinely believe when we get our better players back, we will improve and start winning. But 2, if you're going to replace the manager, do it in the fucking summer. Don't do it at Christmas. We replaced Mourinho in the summer, at Christmas, and we replaced Ollie at Christmas, and the season went to shit. So I just wouldn't do that. So I would stick with Ten Hag. I think you can't sack a manager who finished third, won a cup, and then sack him by Christmas when he's never, with all the injury problems that we've had. I just don't think you can do that. Can't people remember what happened to Liverpool last season? We've had more injuries and lots of drama, takeover news and uncertainty. Can't blame him, says Mario Franco. And would Pep beat Eric Ten Hag if they swap players? No, they wouldn't. Answer, we need better players, says Warrior. Look, I want to read this story from The Insider. People turned on Ranić and now miss him. Eric Ten Hag in, says Brian. Look, I would say that. I turned on Mourinho very, very late and I regret it. I regret it because it was player power that beat the manager. We never should have sacked Ten Hag. We never should have sacked Mourinho. And I think we will look back on this if we make a mistake. I get the criticism and I get the frustration. And United is a shithole at the moment. And I get that people want to lash out. I don't even have a problem with people turning on the manager. I'm just giving you the reasons from a logical point of view why I think it's the wrong idea. And also, one thing I would say before I just read you this stuff out is that, can you correct me if I'm wrong? I hear people like Andy Goldstein talking about Emery, and I hear people talking about what Pep would do. And there's 2 things here as well. Emery would not take the United job. De Zerbi would not take the United job. Pep Guardiola would laugh at the United job. So would Jurgen Klopp. So all these good managers are not gettable or wouldn't take it. So it's a stupid argument. But secondly, the most important point is, how the fuck is Pep Guardiola going to get Marcus Rashford to play like Bernardo Silva? How is he going to get, Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire and Reguilon to play like Vardiel, Diaz, Stones and Kyle Walker? And how is he going to get Scott McTominay and Christian Eriksen to play like Rodri and Foden and Bernardo Silva in the midfield? The players we've got, whether you think they're good or shit, do not fit any of the top 4. So we are where we belong because of the players that we have. Now, look, some of those players may well have been recruited by Ten Hag, but look, Johnny Evans got relegated with Leicester and he's starting games for Manchester United. How did that happen? Do you think Ten Hag planned that in May? Did he fuck? Maguire, he wanted to sell to West Ham and he's now picking him because Maguire wasn't sold to West Ham. Reguilon was his 3rd choice loan option at left back. Into the midfield, Scott McTominay was up for sale in the summer. Eriksen, I don't think the plan was to play him much this season. Rashford has been a disgrace. Bruno is out of position. Anthony has had his troubles. Like, the team is a bloody mess. But most important of all, does Rashford start for Arsenal? No. Liverpool? No. Man City? God, no. Spurs? No. Like, and you could go through... Does Eriksen? No. Does Bruno? Probably not. Does Anthony? No. Does McTominay? Are you having a laugh? You know, so many of our players, people talk about the manager, but some of these players have sacked 3 managers. They were literally here with Mourinho. They were definitely here with Ollie. They were here with Rangnick, and now they're here with Ten Hag. At what point? And look, the Glazers are ultimately responsible, but you know, it is a bit lazy to just keep talking about the Glazers when you're losing football matches. I agree. At what point are we actually going to get back to what the problem was under Rangnick in that January when it was toxic? Many of the players that are clearly the problem are still at this football club. Now, some of them are toxic, but some of them are just not good enough, and they're still here. So people say, Pep. If Pep was in charge of Man United, one thing that would be good if Pep was in charge of Man United is if he says a player's going, they'd fucking get rid of them. I mean, how many managers over the last 10 years have been stuck with deadwood that they want to get rid of? You will never progress as a football club if you keep players that the manager wants to sell. And yesterday, I can think of 3 players at least that he wanted to get rid of or didn't want to buy. And they're starting in a Manchester derby. So this is a huge problem at United. And for some reason, our fan base wants to ignore shit players at the club. They want to ignore that problem. And I don't know why. I was on look, I recorded the podcast before this. It's out tomorrow morning. Goldbridge Saves Football. And one of the either ors was, would you get rid of Marcus Rashford tonight if I told you win the Premier League next season? But after that, you might not win the Premier League again. And I said 100%. And I like Rashford. 100% I'd get rid of Rashford because we haven't won a Premier League in 10 years. And if you gave me one Premier League and I didn't win another one for 10 years, I'd get rid of Rashford. Of course I would. Like, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, or any other player are not more important than the most important thing at United, and that is winning titles. We haven't won one in 10 years. Of course I'd take one Premier League to get rid of Rashford. Now, some people might say that's stupid, but I'm not going to remember Marcus Rashford in 20 years' time if he never wins a Premier League medal with Man United. But if we win a Premier League, I will remember that. I remember the Premier League wins because that's what we're all about. And we've become Player FC over Football Club FC. What an amazing comment from Erik Ten Hag after the match last night where he was asked about, can you play like Ajax? And he said, not with these players. Now, some people say he shouldn't have said that because it's throwing his players under the bus. He's not throwing the players under the bus. He's protecting his legacy at Ajax. He's basically saying, yeah, I did play good football at Ajax, but I can't play that football here with these players. I've got to do what I can with these players. And actually, he's protecting his players because he's basically saying that, you know, I can't play Ajax style of football because these players don't play Ajax style of football. And that's the reality by it. I don't know what... I genuinely think that there are people in the media and in our fan base that think that these players can play the way that Man City play, or the way that Brighton play, or the way that Ajax played. And I find it incredible. You know, people come in and go, why is Ten Hag not playing like De Zerbi? Why is Ten Hag not playing like Pep? Oh, yeah. Yeah, because if you put me in a Ford Escort, I'm going to drive like a fucking Mercedes F1 car. It's an impossibility. We do not have the players. And look, as I say, I get the criticism. I understand the criticism. But there has to be a reality bite. We're not playing like Man City and Brighton because we can't pass out from the back because the defenders he wants to pass out from the back with are injured all the time. He wanted a centre-back in the summer. He's got Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire. He can't play like them because he hasn't got defenders to do it. And that's not his fault. He is using players that he wanted to sell and they wouldn't sell them. So you can say, well, you know, it's down to Ten Hag because he didn't buy any centre-backs to play out from the back. Well, he wanted to. He wanted Kim Min-jae. He wanted Todibo. He's got Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans. Do you think that was part of the plan? And secondly to that, these players have been here for a long time. They can't play out from the back. They can't play through the midfield. Scott McTominay can't play for fucking Ajax. You know, we are what we are because we are what we see. When that team sheet came out yesterday, if you thought we were going to win that game, you know, I think you need to go to the doctors. I really do. Hi, Mark. Fed up with TalkSport, always blaming the foreign players and wanting to strip Bruno of the captaincy. Keep up the good work, says Ashley. I'm Ten Hag in, but his stubbornness and the game changers are starting to send him over the cliff, says Ray. Look, I am furious with some of the media. And you know, what changes there? They are giving the players the opportunity to leak against the manager, and that's what we're seeing. When a player looks online and sees, you know, TalkSport or Sky or an ex-player or whoever, and I'm not aiming it at them exclusively. What I'm just saying is, when a player logs on to or reads an article and sees, oh, the manager's this, the manager's that, they love it because they're not getting the blame. They absolutely love it. And when they see Roy Keane saying, strip Bruno of the captaincy, everybody else is loving it because Bruno's getting the blame. It's like Gary Neville when he blamed Bruno after the 7-0. I couldn't stand it because I was like, that was one of the worst results I've ever seen. And suddenly it was all about Bruno. And this is what we're doing with the manager. We're individualising the blame when it's collective. There's loads of problems at United. Bruno Fernandes is the captain. He's not the problem with Man United. Ten Hag as the manager is not the problem with Man United. You know, if you're Harry Maguire, Johnny Evans, Victor Lindelof, Scott McTominay, Christian Eriksen and Marcus Rashford, 6 shit performances yesterday, you may as well go down Centre Parks and have a go on the flume. You're getting away with it, lads. Nothing about those shit performances because it's Ten Hag, it's Bruno and it's Anthony. You know, those lot who were crap, no blame at all. And this is what I mean. I can't stand it when the media individualise the problem because everybody else who's at fault gets away with it. And this is why it's like bloody Groundhog Day, because there'll be another Man City, because we never look at the whole problem. We look at it through a little pinhole and we go, yeah, Bruno's the problem. Oh, Ten Hag. We don't look at the whole picture. It's a different game yesterday if we took our chances early in the game. Wrong passes in the final third. Well, Lee, I said this. People go, what's Ten Hag's style of play? We're number 1 in the league for winning the ball high up the pitch. First 5 minutes, Bruno wins the ball high up the pitch. Feeds McTominay, space in front of him. He's got to go 10 yards and then slip Rashford in. He goes 10 yards, ignores Rashford and does some shit shot. And you go, that's the problem with United. If that's Liverpool in that position, 1-0. If that's Man City in that position, 1-0. Bruno's won the ball. Man City are out of position. You're running at their back 4. Rashford's made a good run. Head down, never sees the run. Wasted opportunity. That's our style of play. Wasting opportunities in the final third. Yesterday, Pep said it all. The club backed me. Everyone is on the same page with the project. The day Eric Ten Hag has all the tools he needs that they can criticise, says Joseph. Welcome to the Members Club, Juno. Joseph, I mean, this brings me to the second comment. I read it in the Manchester Evening News today. Samuel Luckhurst basically said this. One of the big problems that Man United have got is they've bought players for the manager, not the club. It's old-fashioned and misguided. We've got one player that he bought on the bench and one player that can't score. I don't know where this rhetoric come from because I've heard it from Neville as well. I find this incredible, and that's why what Joseph says is really, really important. On the one hand, you've got Pep Guardiola, who gets complete and utter backing to bring the players in that he wants. You know, he buys 3 right-backs, he buys 2 goalkeepers, and they keep going until they give the manager what he wants. And even if he tries it and it's not good enough, they go and get it. So you've got Pep Guardiola, where everything revolves around what Pep Guardiola wants. And then at Man United, you've got Gary Neville and Samuel Luckhurst saying, I don't like the way they're buying players for the manager. You know, what they should be buying players for the club, not the manager. What does that even mean? You know, I want people to be right. I want people to highlight the proper issues at the club. But there's so many people missing the target. Change the captain. For who? I don't mind if you change the captain. For who? Who's the captain if it's not Bruno Fernandes? Name me somebody who can do the job. We're buying players for the manager. We should be buying players for the club. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Of course we should be buying players for the bloody manager. He's the man who's got to get the team playing the way he wants. He needs a lot more players buying for him. Pep Guardiola does not get given players by Man City. Man City don't go out and go, we'd really like to buy Victor Osimhen. We've spent the whole summer budget on Victor Osimhen. There you go, Pep. This is for us. Remember, it's about what we want, not what you want. And Pep Guardiola goes, hold on a minute. You're buying Victor Osimhen because you want him to play for Man City. We've got Erling Haaland. I'm not playing with a fucking front two. I can't get my hat around this. I can't get my head around this. The exact right thing to do for a football club is to buy the player the manager wants. 100%. But you've got Luckhurst and you've got Neville a few weeks ago saying United have made mistakes. It's old-fashioned to buy players the manager wants. What? So if Ten Hag wants to play out from the back, we should go and buy Nick Pope because that's what the club want to do. The problem is not buying players the manager wants. The problem is not having a sporting director that works alongside him. So when this is where we go wrong. When Ten Hag says, I want a right-footed left winger who can cut in, be creative, but also score goals. And he says, I don't know, he says, I want Harvey Barnes. And the sporting director goes, I agree, you need that type of player, but what about this lad who's playing in France? What about this player who's playing in Italy? I don't like the Harvey Barnes deal. I don't like it for this, this and this. I will get you a winger though. I like this player. And then Ten Hag goes, I really don't like the French one, but I quite like the Italian one. That's what we need. The problem, I think, is that Ten Hag suggests a player and we go and buy it. What you actually need is a proper structure around him. So Ten Hag gets the player he wants, but it's not always the player he suggests because there's a mutual relationship. I mean, Ranić and Ten Hag would have been perfect. I don't know how they missed that opportunity. So, but to say that, I mean, I couldn't believe what I was reading. To read that in the Manchester Evening News, that Man United are old-fashioned, buying the players the manager wants. They should be buying the player the club wants. What does that even mean? Pep Guardiola gets the players he wants for his system in conjunction with a good conversation with his sporting director. The same thing happens with Arteta. The same thing happens with Klopp. But you get that in a national, in a Manchester United outlet that a lot of people read. And some people will believe it and go, yeah, Ten Hag shouldn't be buying the players he wants. We should be buying the player the club wants. We've already done that. I think we've already done that. We've bought players for, for clicks and social media. Get Ten Hag out now. Look how well Ange and Emery are doing. We spend more than they do and playing like a pub side. This is Eric Ten Hag's fault, not the Glazers, says the infiltrator, who has infiltrated a very good stream with a load of shit. Would love to see a fresh, enthusiastic front six given a run. Mount, Amrabat, Mabry, then Garnacho, Højlund, Palestri. They seem like non-toxic lads, says Grant. Mark, I still think we can change things around, but if the coach keeps being stubborn, then Scott is worried. Unpopular opinion, but Ten Hag out for me. Our new manager needs defensive stability. Sancho and Maguire will be reborn if we hire Southgate, says Honda. GGMU. Thank you very much for your super chat. I apologise for the thick people who are doing super chats. I just read them out. We don't talk about it. Eric Ten Hag's lineup, 27th of October 2021. Ajax 4, Dortmund 0. Blind, Mazari, Martinez, Timber, Alvarez, Gravenberch, Tadic, Berghaus, Haller, Anthony. That's a real team that can play possession. Mate, I'm glad you mentioned Gravenberch. I know Gravenberch is a fucking fantastic player. I knew we should have bought him at United. He's gone to Liverpool and he's starting to tear it up. Gravenberch should have been a Man United player. Ten Hag wanted him. We fucked it because we couldn't afford him. We ended up with Amrabat on loan. This will keep happening. And this is what I mean. You'll get Luckhurst and Neville saying, don't let the manager buy the players he wants. Look at some of the players he wanted that he didn't get. You're telling me we shouldn't have gone for Frankie de Jong or Gravenberch or Gakpo or, Kim Min-jae. There's players that he suggested that he hasn't actually got. It is shocking in a sense. But I also heard, I can't remember who said this, but I mean, there's been so much I've listened to today because I've been doing a bit of driving and stuff. Somebody said today, I watched that Man United team and it's clear that Ten Hag has lost the players. They're not running for him. They're not working hard enough. And I was like, oh my God. I wish I could remember the person who said it because I'm like, oh my God. Like, have you watched United in the last 10 years, mate? It's clear from watching United that the players aren't playing for the manager. They're not running for him. They're not working hard. They've not run for anybody for fucking 10 years. What are you talking about? They're not running for the manager. They don't bloody run for their lunch. They don't run. They generally, a lot of those players do not run. They do not try. How many times have they been battered over the last 5 years? It's like being in a fish and chip shop. We're battered consistently. It doesn't matter about the manager. The psychology and mentality in that football club is rotten. It's absolutely rotten. There are players in that team who've got too much power. I ain't naming names because if I name names, I'm as bad as the people who put it on Anthony or Bruno or Ten Hag. I'm not naming names. But there are players in that dressing room who have too much power and have more power than the fucking manager because of, you know, relationships and wages and fear and brand and everything else like that. You know, it's an absolute joke. It's a joke the way Jadon Sancho's been able to just not play for Man United and not apologise and earn 300 grand a week. We've got no balls at that football club. Like, I would love to be CEO. I would love to be director of football because I tell you what, Jadon Sancho would not be sat doing what he's doing now if I or you were CEO. He wouldn't. He wouldn't. There'd be a fucking very strong conversation about what's going to happen if he doesn't apologise. And United just can't deal with it. It's a shit show of a club. And this brings me on to this that I've been wanting to talk to you about for ages. So, I don't run Man United. I don't run the United Stands Twitter. People always say, oh, Goldbridge this, Goldbridge that. We get team news. We've got injury news. We've had interviews. We've had info, all the Anthony stuff no one else got. You know, we get stuff. And you can believe it or not. I don't care. I really don't care. Haters are going to hate. They're always going to be there. But this is bang on inside information from an employee at Manchester United, and this is the quote: "The whole place is crazy at the moment. There is so much uncertainty everywhere, in the boardroom, in the coaching staff and the players. None of them know if they'll even be here next season, Eric included. The sooner Sir Jim comes in and even has 1% of control on the structure, it will be a godsend because at least it will be some sort of change. People used to love working here, but recently it's an effort just to turn up in the morning. Lots of people feel like this. Eric Ten Hag looks shot, the same as Ollie did towards the end. It's painful to see as he was a breath of fresh air last year, though the party line publicly is that Eric is the man and has their support. I don't think even he believes that at the moment." And that is from within the football club. Now, that could be coaching staff, it could be a player, it could be fitness department, it could be PR, it could be communications, it could be, you know, canteen. But that's the big problem here. Like, within that football club, and I know this anyway, within that football club, and many people know this, we're not losing games because Ten Hag isn't a good manager. We're losing games because the club is messed up. People don't know whether they're keeping their jobs. People don't know what the plan is. People don't know what the future is. You imagine going to work tomorrow, right? Go to work tomorrow. You don't know whether you're going to have a job in 6 months. And if you have got a job in 6 months, you don't know whether you're going to get a pay rise. You don't know what the plan is. You don't know whether there's going to be job cuts. You don't know whether there's going to be major investment. You don't know whether you're competing with that business anymore or you're lowering your standards. You don't know anything. You're just working. You're just existing. And, you know, if you go to work at Spurs or Liverpool or Arsenal or Aston Villa or Brighton or Newcastle, Man City, you know, you've got a vision, you've got a plan. If you go to work at Luton, Sheffield United and Burnley, you've got a vision and a plan. You're desperately trying to stay up and that would be a miracle. Man United are just treading water. I don't think we're even treading water. I think we're sinking. And people want to individualise the problem. Spent 400 million first 18 months and still no style of play. We can't just keep blaming the owners for getting outplayed by mid-table seats. Jaffa, I think you're better than this. You know, you spent $5 on this. I think you're better than this. You're better than... I said this to Jamie Carragher on Twitter yesterday and he ain't got the balls to reply because he knows he'll lose the conversation. Not because I'm better than him. He's played the game. He's played the game. But I think any of you would beat Jamie Carragher in a conversation about Man United. He's not a Man United fan. I'm tired of no style of play. I was talking about this 2 weeks ago and I took it on myself to go, actually, it's really lazy. It's really lazy to say we've got no style of play. Because what does it even mean? What does no style of play actually mean? When you think about it, we say it because we're frustrated. We say it because the results aren't good enough. But what does no style of play mean? It actually doesn't mean anything because if you've got no style of play, you're losing 10-0 and you just stood there. Like, we have got a style of play. It's just very confusing to identify what it is. You can't not have a style of play and finish third and get to 2 cup finals. You can't. You can't not have a style of play and go to Arsenal and deserve to win a few weeks ago. We do have a style of play. It's just very fragmented. It never builds into a consistent, coherent thing. Our style of play in my opinion, is quick transition, but also it's not counter-attack. Because counter-attack is sitting in deep and counter-attacking with long balls. But we're not doing that. We're trying to win the ball high up the pitch. We're trying to win the ball high up the pitch for a reason. And we're one of the best teams in the league at winning the ball high up the pitch. He's trying to win the ball up high up the pitch because if you win it there, it's less travel to the goal. We win the ball high up the pitch and we haven't got the players to use it because they're all bloody selfish. Everyone wants a shot instead of a pass. So he's got the wrong players to play the style of football he wants to do it. Why does he not play counter-attacking football? Because you're far away from your goal and he hasn't got the players to play through from the back, as we know. So we're trying to win the ball up high up the pitch, but then we've got players who won't pass. Which takes you back to the sporting director. Like, we've got the wrong collection of players to play the football that a Pep or a De Zerbi or a Ten Hag or an Arteta wants to play. We saw it yesterday. We've seen it countless times. We're number one in the league for winning the ball back high up the pitch. But we're shit at scoring goals because we haven't got the players to do it. If I win the ball high up the pitch, if I've got space, I'm moving into it. But as I'm moving into it, I'm looking, where's my striker? Where's Rashford? What movement are they making? Are they creating space for me or am I slipping them in? But we haven't got the players to do that. They're shooting. Like, we have got... I find it so lazy to say we haven't got a style of play because it's an impossibility. It's impossible that we don't have a style of play. We have a style of play, it's just very fragmented and it's not easy on the eye because we haven't got the players to implement it. So it ends up being very inconsistent. Sometimes it looks like long ball, sometimes it looks like high press, sometimes it looks like side-to-side possession. You know, it's all over the place. But I think a lot of that comes down to the players not being able to implement it and not being good enough. Crazy nobody sees that the defence and Casemiro are not the problem. Those leaving them exposed are. The issue starting with the front three is Rashford and Bruno, says James. And it blows my mind that the Glazers have never hired a world-class director of football after all these years. With no structure, we're just going in circles, says Jake. We have a style of play for 30 minutes each game, then the players seem to give up. Having 5 injuries doesn't help, says James. Look, I don't care if I'm the manager or you're the manager and you train them all week to play like prime Man City. If the players don't want to do it and give up, I'm going to look like a fucking idiot. You know, I've been in that position. I have done some coaching, and sometimes it works really, really well. And you've got the players that, you know, follow your instruction and ideas to the word, and they're enthusiastic and they're passionate, and they'll fight when they're 1-0 down. You know, they will. Sometimes you've got a set of players that can't be arsed, and it makes you look fucking rubbish, and it makes you feel rubbish. And unfortunately, this is the contradiction. What I find incredible is, what I find really incredible is that people want to pin it on Ten Hag, but then they ignore that we've been here with these players when Ten Hag wasn't here. You know, we've been smacked up by Man City and Liverpool and Watford and Leicester with these same players who down tools and aren't good enough technically. And yet it's Ten Hag's fault now for not getting the best out of those players. Yet we've seen they're not good enough. Like, I love Bruno. I think Bruno gets a lot of unfair stick, but he wouldn't start for Liverpool and he wouldn't start for Man City and he wouldn't start for Arsenal because he's not the right type of player. Pep wouldn't pick him. He'd go, you don't keep the ball. You don't keep the ball. You go for the Hollywood pass. You know, we lose possession. They've got the ball back. You know, if you're playing for Pep Guardiola and you're Bruno Fernandes and it's a choice between Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes, he's going to drop Bruno. And the reason he's going to drop him is, I think you're a good player, Bruno. And I think you can probably play a better pass than Bernardo Silva. But most of the time, you don't make the pass. And then if I'm playing Brighton, they've got possession and they're dangerous. Whereas I've got Bernardo Silva, he keeps the ball. He probes until the right pass is there. Whereas you get the ball and you go for the Hollywood pass and it doesn't always work. And then Brighton have got the ball and it's all about possession and I might concede. So I like you, Bruno, but you don't fit my system. And Klopp would say the same. And Arteta would say the same. But at Man United, why aren't we playing like Man City? Why can't Ten Hag get Bruno to play like that? Because he's not that player. Same with Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford would not play for Spurs. He would not play for Arsenal. He would not play for Man City. Because Arteta would go, you know, Martinelli can score me a goal, but he also knows how to keep the ball in the right positions and keep the possession. You don't know how to do that. So I'm going to keep Martinelli in my team over you. I think you're a great player, Marcus, and I think there's aspects of your game that are better than Martinelli's, but you're going to lose possession for me. And you're not going to track back as hard either. So I'm going to put Martinelli in my team. And that's just 2 players. I haven't even mentioned Eriksen, McTominay or others. We simply don't have the players. And I find it baffling that people want to say, get rid of the manager. And yet De Zerbi comes in with magic money and goes, well, I can't play Brighton football with Bruno and McTominay and Eriksen and Rashford. I can't do it. I can't play that brand of football with these players. I literally cannot polish a turd. And I'm not saying those players are shit, but I personally think Marcus Rashford suits a West Ham or an Everton on the counter more than he does a Man City or an Arsenal as a possession-based team. I think a lot of our players are really good, and I really like Rashford and I really like Bruno. But I think the way football's played now, they don't suit the way everybody plays. So when people talk about a style of play with Ten Hag, he has one, but he doesn't have the players to implement it. And then you go, well, what the fuck do we do? Because actually, logically, the brave answer is we either become a counter-attacking team like Everton or West Ham, which we can never be, or we actually do the thing that nobody ever wants to talk about. And it's not a hate thing. If we want to play like a Man City or a Brighton or a Liverpool, and I think you have to in the modern game if you want to win things, if we want to play out from the back, high press, possession, clinical, then we need to sell players that a lot of you don't even dare say the name about it. We need to do what Ralph Rangnick said 18 months ago, open heart surgery. Some people thought when he said open heart surgery, he was talking about selling Maguire or McTominay or whoever. He was actually talking about getting rid of Rashford. He was actually talking about maybe Bruno. He was actually talking about the first team players that we pay big money for and are our star players, but they don't fit the system. That's what we should have done. Man United focus on brand and fame and TikTok and PR. What we should do is build a team. We should go, this is how we're going to play, and this is what we're going to do. And if it means pulling Marcus Rashford into the office and saying, look, absolutely love you, but you're not the right player for this system. So you're either going to be a bench player or we sell you. But we're never going to do that. Jim's not going to do that. You know, I don't even know if Qatar would have done it. And that's why we will always fail, because I believe we've got some really good players that cannot play the way you need to play to be a top team. We've got players that suit a counter-attacking system, which is really mid-table football. And surprise, surprise, that's where we are. Because everybody is technically better than us with the ball. And we just haven't got the players. Erik Ten Hag out is starting to become the popular opinion, sadly. Disgusting how spineless part of this fan base is, says Adti. Well, I'm calm. I'll go back to what I just said there. Who are you going to replace Ten Hag with? Because unless it's going to be David Moyes, I just don't think I don't see the point. What's the point in bringing in another possession-based high press, play out from the back manager? It won't work. We haven't got the players to do it. Who in our... Here's an even better question. Who in our current team can play the brand of football that Man City play or Brighton play? I would say Onana, Luke Shaw, Martinez, Varane to a certain extent, Casemiro to a certain extent. Now I'm going to struggle. Mount maybe. Anthony maybe when you think about Ajax. Eriksen 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, I'm really struggling. I'm really struggling to see beyond 6 or 7 players that can play the way our rivals play. And that's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. The structure and framework of the club is broken from Erik Ten Hag to the T-Leady. No one knows if they're coming or going, says Mike Calvert. Mark, are no plans and no structures actually Glazers' plan besides eyeing dollars into their pockets? Look at the Buccaneers. They are pathetic as owners, says Winston. Ten Hag has no idea what format to play. He's not the man for us. I've seen enough. He's not playing the United way. Ollie had more of a clue and beat City. I mean, I have to apologise for these. That was from Marcel. I have to apologise for these. These are just people who, you know, they just want a few seconds of trolling. It doesn't help anybody. What I'm actually trying to do here this evening is say we need to get real. We need to stop being shouters of this, that, and the other. Don't pin it on Rashford. Don't blame Maguire. Don't blame Casemiro. Don't blame Ten Hag. Don't blame Bruno. Look at the whole picture. What are we actually trying to achieve? What are we? Why would you sack a manager? What's going to change? You're still going to have a collection of players that aren't good enough. I personally think if I was coming in as a Sir Jim, and look, we're hearing that if Sir Jim comes in, that Ten Hag will have reduced powers. And I think what that means is there's a sporting director that works with him, which will help him. There's better coaches brought in, hopefully, around fitness and training. But I'm just going to say it. Why lie? Like, if I came in as a CEO or an owner or whatever, and I had responsibility for the football side, first thing I would do is I'd get Ten Hag in. I'd say, what is it we're trying to achieve here? Are we trying to be Man City, Eric? Are we trying to play like Brighton and Man City and everyone else? And if he says yes to me, I'd say, right, let's get real. You can't spend another year trying to get these players to play like Man City and Brighton when Man City and Brighton wouldn't buy them. They wouldn't use them. They're not the right players. So what we've got to do, Eric, is we've got to get rid of these players. Now, the problem I've got, Eric, is I can't sell these players because they're on stupid wages. So we either sit here and go, we're fucked because we can't play the style everyone else is playing and we can't sell the players to replace them and we haven't got the money and we're basically fucked. Or I sack you and bring in a manager that suits those players. And then Ten Hag says to me, well, if you can sack me, I'll get a job elsewhere and you can pay me off. But the only manager that's going to get the best out of them is somebody that plays pretty basic counter-attack football, which is not going to do anything for you. And this is the dilemma you've got. So I just think we're broken. I hate to say that, but I think we're broken. I think the get-out-of-jail card was full sale and billions invested and brave decisions, but we haven't got the money. And I think what we will do is we will try again to get the best out of a collection of players that can't play the brand of football we want to play. It's really sad, but I would rather be realistic than wander off down these ridiculous, short-sighted opinions of change the captain. For who? Buy players for the club and not the manager. What? Sack the manager. What? You know, I don't see what any of those things, I don't see what they bring to the table. I just don't. I think they are the same mistakes we've been making for 10 years. And it's just change for change's sake. I genuinely think the club that we've become is what we are. We're not good enough. We're probably the 8th best team in England, you know, if we're lucky. And I think that I actually think that what we should try and do is get these players back from injury and work with this manager to give him everything that he can to be successful rather than ripping it all down again. Because one thing that we have mentioned and we haven't mentioned on the show tonight, and it's really important, is this. GGMU says he already spent 400 million. Can't we play half his style at least? He seems to suggest we can never play his style, so I no longer want him. I mean, that's just silly. You can't play a system. You can't play as a team when half of the team can't play. You're only as good as one whole unit. But you make a good point without actually understanding the point you're making. And what I mean is, people keep saying he's sport. I actually think this is sort of, you know, it's spitting back at you really, and you don't realise it. So many people keep saying he's spent 400 million and we haven't got a style of play. But they don't see that that's actually a reason to keep him. Because if he's spent 400 million, and I don't know the exact figures, but if he's spent 400 million in the last 12 months, add that 400 million, how many players is that? 400 million, how many players is that? 5, 6, 7? So we've spent 400 million pounds on Ten Hag, and we're going to sack him to bring another manager in, who's then got to use 400 million pounds of Ten Hag's players, 300 million pounds of Solskjaer's players, probably another 150 million pounds of Mourinho players that are still here, and then we're going to give the new manager money as well. Do you not see that we're just piling up the shit? Like, at some point, you've got to clear the shit. And that's what I'm saying. You know, you've got Mourinho. We've still got a few Van Gaal players. Then you got the Mourinho players. Then you got the Ollie players. And now you got the Ten Hag players. And if you think they're all shit, well, let's get rid of Ten Hag and let another manager pile some more on. At some point, we've got to stop the cycle of every 3 years sacking a manager and giving them money. And we've got to reset. And if I'm Sir Jim Radcliffe, I'm looking at that. Van Gaal money, then Mourinho, and they're all there piled on top of each other. You've got to go, right, maybe I am going to sack Ten Hag in a year. Maybe I'm going to sack him in 18 months. But what I'm going to do in that time is I'm going to clear the shit underneath it so that we get it down to a level where whoever comes in is just inheriting a Ten Hag side instead of inheriting a Mourinho, Van Gaal, Ollie, Ten Hag mishmash, and then they add to it. Like, the most important thing I think is, and where I'm at, is that we're not going to get top 4 this year. Don't go chasing it. We're not going to get it. No manager's getting top 4 now. It's gone. And we're not going to win the title next year either. So I think you've got 2 years where you can go, I've got a 2-year plan, because it doesn't matter what I do. We're not going to do anything in the next 2 years. So, right, let's do something we haven't done before. Let's not sack a manager and start spending money again. Let's stick with this manager. Let's get rid of as many of the players as we can. And let's get down to a base where, you know, he obviously gets an opportunity, but we get to clear a lot of the shit so that when the next manager does come in, if he comes in, he isn't inheriting all the shit that every other manager's inherited. You know, you've got to start clearing the crap out. Otherwise, you're just accumulating it. So this 400 million thing that people keep talking about as a reason to get rid of him, I actually think it's a very good reason to keep him, because that's a ridiculous amount of money to just throw away after 12 months. You know, we're not Chelsea. We haven't got billions. We've got to see it through. And I know I've said it so many times, but up until 2 months ago, this was a manager that everyone supported and backed who just got us 3rd place. So, and if he beats Newcastle on Wednesday, he's got to 50 wins quicker than any other manager in our history. So, and he's got loads of injury problems. But also, I do think he's got a lot of problems in the dressing room. I think there are a few players in that dressing room who are doing what they've done before. I think they're turning on the manager. They're playing the blame game. What Ten Hag needs to do, look, and again, I don't want to name players because I don't want to individualise it. But if there's a star player in that team and he's not putting in 100% and he's starting to maybe turn on you a little bit, kick him out. Get him out the team. Start Garnacho. Start Mainu. You know, start doing that. Just get players on the pitch that are going to run and run and run. Because at the moment, he hasn't got players that are going to run and run and run for him. And get as many good players as you can on that pitch. And if you've got cliques in the dressing room again, focus on the clique that's going to do the best for you. Like, to be honest, you want to be focusing on the clique that's got Casemiro and Varane in it for a start. They're the 2 players because they're the best 2 players in the squad. They've won everything. Like, they've got the mentality. He's got to get the best out of those 2. They're the players that are going to keep him in a job. Varane and Casemiro are going to keep him in a job. It's not going to be Maguire and McTominay. It's not going to be Rashford and Bruno at the moment. Casemiro and Varane are the 2 to build the team around because we're in shit. But I don't know. Look, he could be sacked by Christmas. I'm not saying he won't be, but I just think that there's a lot of shit out there at the moment. You've got to cut through it. And, you know, saying stuff like Emery would do a better job completely and utterly belittles the intelligence of any United fan that's been living the last 10 years. This is not, and it winds me up a lot because this is not a problem that can be solved by sacking a manager and dropping another good manager in. We've done it. We had Jose, for fuck's sake. Even he couldn't do it. The problems run far deeper. It feels like this season the club got their hooks into Ten Hag. First season was refreshing. Now he's falling into the same trap that Jose, Ollie fell into. Stubborn selections, making excuses. He was not like that last season. Look, Luster, can I just applaud you, actually? You've just made probably the comment of the night. I said this in August. I said it in pre-season. It felt like a different Ten Hag after the summer. His press conferences were different. His interviews were different. I don't know what happened over the summer, but he almost became indoctrinated into the Glazer way. And we saw it with Mourinho. And we saw it with Van Gaal. I don't know what it is. Is it, you know, some sort of footballing depression, acceptance, reality bite? I don't know. But yeah, I agree there has been a change in him. People must understand that we can't progress until the financial situation is remedied. It's what keeps us from going rid of Deadwood. We're in a death spiral, says Luster. Someone asked Goldstein who was the greatest Man United manager and the fans wanted him out. I do remember, says Graham Cox. Sir Jim Radcliffe's PR stunt about upheaval of the sporting department has destabilised the club more. Sir Jim's plan on giving everyone a chance first seems smarter now, says Vizas. Yeah, but look, it's a great point, and I'm running out of time on this show, but all the talk of Arnold and Murta getting the sack has destabilised the club. Now, they should get the sack, but it has destabilised the club because there's so much uncertainty. And when your boss is thinking about losing the job, he's not motivated. It's a mess. The club is a mess. And there's a lot of problems going on. And one thing we do know about this set of players is that if you give them an excuse not to perform, they'll do it. I mean, I can't believe some of the games we've lost over the last 6-7 years. You know, Newcastle when they were shit, the Ginger Longstaff, Watford, Leicester. You know, we've lost to some right shit over the last 5 years. And that's because the players have had an excuse. You know, they've had an excuse to down tools. And you give them an excuse and they will down tools. And that's what worries me. But I don't know how we do it. But what we've got to do in the short term is beat Fulham and Luton in the Premier League and beat Newcastle on Wednesday and Copenhagen away. Do that, get to the international break, hopefully get a couple more players back, and hopefully get some clarity on the future of the football club. I think this whole sale thing needs resolving as well. I think he's given up with the problems inside the club, sale process, problem with some players, and also very weak recruitment, says Shane. And also, just on Ten Hag, remember back January time when he was doing an interview and he was asked about the sale and he said it was good and we need, you know, big investments needed. You know, maybe Ten Hag's like a lot of you. You know, maybe he is not demotivated. Maybe he's demoralised. You know, maybe he's like thinking in January he's going to get money like Pep. And now he's like, I'm not going to get the money. And what am I supposed to do? You know, we're all human after all. Fantastic show tonight. I feel I could have spoken to you for hours, but it's been a fantastic show. And I just want to say thank you everyone for tuning in. And of course, get your comments in. I'm not here to tell you my opinion's right. I'm just here to tell you why my opinion is what it is. And some of you might agree with some of the stuff out there. But I really, I don't normally do this, but if I could urge everybody to stick with the manager, I would, because I just think it's the right thing to do. I just don't think changing the manager at this point is right. I think it makes things worse for everything I've spoken about over the last hour. Very, very quickly, I just need to say this. Ben says just at the point where we're going to need to let contracts run out and restructure the club, it's just going to take time, regardless of the manager, says Ben. I agree. I think it's going to take a long time, and I think it's frustrating, but it is. We've got our Christmas show on December the 11th. If you've not got your tickets yet, links in the video description. But I just want to announce this. On the podcast, tomorrow morning's podcast, Goldbridge Saves Football, it's out at 7 a.m. We're giving away 10 tickets to the show. So make sure you listen to the podcast. I've left the link to the podcast on the live chat so you can click it and give it a follow so you get an update when it comes out. It's 10 tickets, but it's 20 really, because if you win a ticket, you get a +1. So if you want to win tickets for the show on December the 11th, we're giving away 10 on the podcast tomorrow, which is 20 really. So check it out on the podcast. Links in the live chat. Give it a click, give us a follow on there, and then you'll get the notification when the podcast comes out, and then you can hopefully win one. First come, first served. No, it's not really. There's a way of winning it. Listen to the podcast tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. You've been legends tonight. I know it's difficult times. I really actually think, and for somebody who loses it every time we concede a goal, it seems at the moment, I really do think pragmatic thinking. Even Roy Keane, who is a legend, one of my favourite ever players, was irrational yesterday. I'd get rid of Bruno Fernandes as the captain. Fine. Got no problem with you doing that, Roy, but who replaces him? And that's, I don't need, at this moment in time, after 10 years of failure, I don't need sound bites. I don't need irrational thinking. Sacking the manager for what? Darren Fletcher? Sacking Bruno as captain to bring Maguire back? Like, I'm not saying, you know, things aren't great, but just throwing out sound bites, I want solutions. I don't want sack the manager or change the captain unless you're giving me something that's logically better. And yes, the situation we're in is bad, but I absolutely believe that the alternatives are even worse or impossible. And that's what I mean. It's kindergarten. It's nursery school to say sack the manager and then not have a plan for when he goes. It's childish. It's like throwing your toys out the pram. Sack the manager, change the captain. For who? For what? Accept what we are. We're broken. We are where we are. After 10 years of this, it's got continually worse. And people still think there's a magic pill to take and everything will be all right. It's not going to be all right. It's not going to be all right. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Don't forget the podcast, and I'll speak to you all in a bit.